Welcome back to the program. It's Capital Market Live on Channels Television, your 12-time award-winning TV station in Africa. Let's begin with what the Debt Management Office representing the federal government is planning this week for the nation. The federal government wants investors to key into the green bonds offering, which will be launched on Monday, December the 18th at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The Director General of the DMO, that's the Debt Management Office, Ms. Patience Oniha, as well as the representative of the Ministry of Environment, met with some investors in Abuja recently and talked to them about this deal that is coming up. It's a 10.7 billion naira sovereign bond. Let's listen.
The green bond that we are planning to issue is actually part of the new domestic borrowing in the 2017 Appropriation Act. Okay, so as an institution, the DMO has done all the borrowing to fund the budget, but this amount was reserved because we knew the green bond for that amount was going to be issued. So it has been approved, and the projects to which the proceeds will be applied are also included in the budget. So it's like funding the, looking at two sides of the budget of the government. And so please be assured that what we're doing is has been pre-approved. Once the budget was approved, that has been pre-approved.
What we've done is that projects were identified in the different sectors of the economy, but then these projects need to be funded. We need at least about 142 billion US dollars to fund them.
Okay, now we have the investment analyst at AfriInvest West Africa, Eramasole Aziba, joining us now to preview this offering, the sovereign green bond that Nigeria is looking at launching at the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Monday. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
So ahead of Monday, what are investors telling you? Because I know you are an investment research analyst.
Yes, so what we've seen is the DMO has actually carried out, in the past week we saw DMO carry out a sort of sensitization, have a roadshow, speak to investors and other market players to try to sensitize them on what the green bond will be, and like the name says, so they're government looking to invest these funds in initiatives that would have an impact on the ecosystem, in a manner of speaking, looking to reduce CO2 emissions from the country by about 40% by 2020. So they're looking at investing in projects such as renewable energy, agriculture, and projects like that. So yes, it's quite positive, like has been mentioned. It's the first from an African country, and it's actually going to be the fourth sovereign. The first country to issue was Poland, and then we had Fiji, and then we had France, and now Nigeria, and it seems like a lot more countries are going to be coming up to this. But basically, what a lot of investors are asking is, how attractive would this bond be? So beyond the fact that the funds are going to be used for these noble projects, are the bonds actually going to be attractive? And to this end, what we've also heard from DMO is that the rates at which the bond will be issued will be very similar to what we currently have in the secondary market, in order to make it attractive for investors to come in.
So, which all the federal government is looking at doing with this fund, investing massively in ATRs and all of that, how different do you see what they have projected from what obtains in the global markets regarding green bonds projects?
Well, it's quite similar. If you remember back when with the Paris agreements that have been signed earlier, with a lot of countries coming together and stating their plans on what they intend to do to reduce their CO2 emissions. We've started to see a lot of them actually come into this space and issue these green bonds. Like I mentioned, now with Nigeria issuing, this will be the fourth sovereign that will be issuing green bonds since it actually started in 2017. What we've had since in 2007, sorry, what we've had since then till now, that space has been majorly dominated by corporates issuing green bonds as well as development financial institutions. But now we're starting to see more sovereigns come into this space. For the Nigerian government, I mean, it's an alternative source of funding also to fund the deficit that is in the budget. And like the Director General of DMO had earlier mentioned, this provision was already there in the budget, so it's not necessarily going to increase borrowing beyond what was earlier projected.
Okay, so we know that, yes, investors have listened to all of this. Some have also attended the road shows and all that. But one question that always comes to mind is the confidence of the investors in everything government says. A lot of time, governments, it is believed they don't live up to their responsibilities whenever they want to do this. Are these sort of concerns or hearsays that you're getting from investors from your perspective?
Yes, well, those worries are also there, but I believe the only thing that differentiates this green bond from the traditional bonds that we have in the market is the fact that the funds from the issuance of this bond are going to be directed towards projects that are tied to renewable energy. But like I mentioned, it's going to trade like the traditional bonds that you already have. So what investors' major focus will be on is how attractive is this bond going to be in terms of yields on your investment, and that's what investors are going to be looking at.
It's all about their own profits.
It's basically
it's not about the projects,
about the return. I mean, the projects are important, but for investors to actually come in, it has to be attractive enough. And we've also seen from one of ratings agencies, which has rated this potential issuance as quite highly and investable.
And this then brings to mind the issue of disclosure and transparency, records on the part of issuers, which is one of the key discussions that has, resonated in recent time at fora where bond and T-bills, basically debt markets discussions have been taken up. What does this tell you? Disclosure rules and transparency on the part of regulators, the exchange, the FMDQ and all that?
Well, it's improving. A lot of moves have been made towards this, improving governance, improving transparency, as that's one way to actually build investors' confidence in the market, and we've seen a lot with regards to this that has been done.
All right, Aromasala Aziba, thank you very much for coming down to Capital Market this evening. We appreciate it. Aromasala Aziba is an investment research analyst with Afrig Invests West Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Capital Market this weekend. Watch out for some of the events that have been lined up for this week. On Monday, we see the green bond being launched, 10.7 billion naira, equivalent of $30 million on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And of course, the diaspora bond and Euro bond will be listed on Wednesday or Thursday on the FMDQ platform. That's all the time we have this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you again next time.